Joining us right now is the new UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion who had one of the most memorable title fights in recent memory at UFC 196. She is Miesha Tate, and Miesha, I imagine it's going to take a long time for that kind of introduction to get sick and tired of.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely not sick of it. I'm just trying to get used to it, and I'm loving it, so thank you.
Now, I imagine that coming out of a fight, it's much more enjoyable to be doing these kinds of interviews as opposed to fight week, where your mind is obviously elsewhere and getting the same questions over and over.
Yeah, it's much more fun to do the interviews as the champion, that's for sure. Everything in life is more fun as the champion, so absolutely. And the week leading up to the fight is challenging in a lot of different ways. There's no course on how to do it all correctly. There's no MMA 101, how to handle media and everything like that. So it's kind of sink or swim. You either figure it out or you don't. Fortunately, I've been doing it long enough that I think I have a pretty good grasp. And I actually turned away a lot of media leading up to this fight, other than what the UFC asked me to do. And I think it was important that I did that. And I said, once I win the belt, I'm sure all the media will still want to talk to me. So here you are.
How did you celebrate the title win on Saturday?
Well, I went back to my hotel room. I was staying at the MGM Grand Signature Towers. Beautiful room, and I downed a cupcake, and I grabbed a Budweiser, and I headed out to my after party, and I met up with a bunch of my friends and family and fans, and I took pictures, and I didn't go to bed until like 8 o'clock the next morning. So it was an amazing night, very memorable, probably one of the best nights ever in my life, honestly.
Since the win, have you gone back and watched the fight?
I did watch the fight one time. I actually came home and my roommates were watching the fight, so I was just like, oh, okay, well, sit down and watch the fight. So I did sit down and watch it.
And is there anything you noticed going back and watching it that maybe wasn't as evident when you were in the heat of the moment during the fight with Holly?
I thought that my head movement and footwork looked better than I really realized. Everyone in practice was saying to me like, man, your head movement looks so good. Man, your footwork looks so good. It's never seen you move like that. And I never saw myself move like that before either. So I give a lot of thanks to my striking coach, Jimmy Gifford, because he finally got the flat-footed wrestler in me broken. And now I'm moving like a butterfly and stinging like a bee. So it feels really good.
Would you classify your striking as the biggest advancement that you've made in the last 18 months to 2 years working under people such as Jimmy Gifford?
Absolutely. I've made the most growth in my striking area. Before, I was just kind of a reckless, chaotic striker, and I might have thrown with power, but I wasn't that accurate, and I kind of spent a lot of energy in that area. And my defense definitely wasn't as good. So I knew I had to be really on point because I'm fighting a multiple world champion boxer, a multiple-time world champion kickboxer in Holm, who brutally knocked out one of the biggest stars ever in UFC history. So she has the capability of putting anyone away at any time. So I knew that the fight starts standing, so I better be able to hang in that area at least. And I was really happy with what I was able to do, giving her credentials.
I would say one of the rounds that everyone focused on was the second round. It was a very dominant one for yourself, and all three judges scored this a 10-8 round. Going to your corner after the second, did you believe that you had a 10-8 round, or did you just have to focus on the third round and not assume anything when it came to the scoring?
I knew I had a dominant second round there. I don't think she really was able to do anything in the second round, so it was entirely my round. But at the same time, I didn't assume that it was a 10-8. I assumed it was a 10-9. I always like to, go on the side of caution, not over assuming anything. So I went into the fifth round thinking I've got to finish this fight. And I know that when you put someone in a chokehold and you cut off the carotid arteries, it only takes 6 seconds for someone to go to sleep. So I was pretty confident when having 5 minutes on the clock that I could get it done.
One of the keys in Holly Holm's victory over Ronda Rousey last November was her takedown defense. The fact that you were able to get her down in the second round, did that give you that confidence going into the fifth that you could do it again? Because she was very strong in that department throughout your fight, but that was obviously your key to victory, was it not?
Holly is phenomenal at controlling range. That's one of her best attributes. So she is no easy feat to close distance on or take down. That's why I felt it was so important that my striking was getting onto an elevated level, because I knew I had to weather the storm and be able to give enough back to close distance and take it to where I was stronger, you know. And I think she just crumbled under the pressure. When I took her down in that second round, my coaches told me, Brian actually told me, she's either going to stay down and be so scared about getting submitted that you're gonna ground and pound her and you're gonna beat her up, or she's gonna try desperately to get up, and because of your top pressure being so heavy, she's gonna be forced to leave something out there and you're gonna grab it and you're gonna submit this girl. And we saw both cases. In the second round, she kind of stayed down there and she took some heavy ground and pound. In the fifth round, she definitely didn't want to get stuck down there again, so she tried to zealously get up, and I saw the opening and I took it because we planned for that and we assumed that that's what was gonna happen.
This has now become a theme for you, Miesha, where you have been able to weather an early storm and then come back and win fights late in the fight. You did it against Marloes Coenen in Chicago. You did it against Sarah McMahon, against Jessica Ai, and now with Holly Holm. That's a mental toughness that you can't learn inside of a gym. And I have to imagine that that is going to affect your opponents in the future, knowing that when they're going into a fight with you and they can never rest on anything.
Thank you. I hope so. I like to have the confidence in myself when I go into the ring, knowing that you can't break me inside the ring. I mean, you know, everyone has a chance of losing when you go in there. Everyone has a chance of getting caught or getting submitted. Those are calculated risks that I'm willing to take every time I step in there. But I truly believe that there is no quit in me, because I've never had that shadow of doubt in my mind. I've never had that come over me where I thought, you know, oh, I'm not going to win this fight, or I can't win this fight. If I feel more pressure to win a fight, I just usually perform better, and I perform better when I get hurt. So I think I'm a dangerous opponent for anybody, and a lot of people maybe underestimate me, but once they get in there with me, you've got to understand that I'm coming for you, and unless you absolutely put me away cleanly, I will come back and I will get you.
You were asked many times during the lead up to this fight if there was pressure on your shoulders, and I know you didn't really want to focus on that word pressure going into this, but now in hindsight, was this a must-win in the sense that had you not won the championship, this might have been your last opportunity to do so in the UFC?
Yes, it was. It was a must-win. But you know, I'm going to say I listened to Joe Rogan's podcast with Demetrius Johnson, and Demetrius really inspired me. I listened to it the night before my weight cut, and he said, I'm never tied to an outcome. Yes, I want to win. I want to be the best. I put everything into it, but I'm not so tied to an outcome that it's going to, you know, change who I am at the end of the day. And I thought, you know, that's so true. Like, even if I lost, which I don't plan on it, I'm still going to be who I am the next day, and I'm still going to have my family, my friends, and those people who love and support me. So it took any negative weight off of it, and I was able to just focus on the positive, that I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do this. I kept telling myself, you can beat this girl, and I looked at myself for, you know, a brief moment right before I walked out to the cage. I stared myself in the face in the mirror and I said, this is the last time you'll look at yourself as a non-champion. And I just had it. I knew it. I knew I was going to go out there and win. And having that kind of confidence is key. And that's definitely why I stand here today.
Do you expect your next fight to be against Ronda Rousey?
I honestly have no idea. I haven't talked to the UFC yet, and I haven't talked to my management yet. And they're just kind of telling me, just enjoy the week. You worked really hard for this. You deserve that week of time to just let it all sink in. And I'm still letting it sink in. I feel like people are asking me, are you on cloud 9? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm on cloud 10 or 11 by now. So it's just getting better and better. I'm loving the championship lifestyle so far. And whatever's next, I will be ready for it. I will stay ready as the champion. That's my job. But we still got to kind of talk about all the semantics and exactly what's going to go into it, and when I'll be able to fight again.
Since the fight, there has been criticism that Holly Holm should have just simply waited for that elusive rematch with Ronda Rousey. She opted instead to fight you. When she signed and decided to take this fight with you, were you surprised that Holly didn't wait?
I think Holly took the advice of her coaches, who she trusts in with everything. And I think they said, Holly, you've always been an active you've always been an active fighter. Let's not change who you are now that you're the champion, because that's when you're going to lose sight of who you are. So I think the idea was to keep her grounded and just the same as she would be if she wasn't the champion, which means fighting often, fighting her way, through the top 10. And I admire that. I respect that. I think that's what any champion should do. She didn't want to wait. She wanted to get in there and prove why she was the best in the world. And, it didn't work out for her this time, but you have to understand that that is the mindset that makes a champion. And you're not going to win every fight in this sport. It just doesn't work like that. But she has the mentality of a champion, and that's why she beat Ronda. And if she would have said, I'm not ready to fight Ronda, she would have missed that opportunity. So she's just the kind of woman who wants to stay ready, be ready, and she's passionate about this. So I have a lot of respect for her, and I don't think it was a mistake. I think she's going to learn from it. I think she'll come back better.
In the past, you've been part of fight build-ups that have had that grudge element, and this fight with Holly Holm certainly did not. But you got to be next to Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor throughout fight week and see the two go back and forth in a strange, indirect way. Were you able to learn anything from Nate Diaz, who, when he got into the octagon, it appeared that he didn't let any of Conor's talk rattle him, it didn't affect him, and in any way, do you learn from that, knowing that you're probably going to fight Ronda Rousey again, and that's going to be a big part of going into it?
Yeah, I feel like Nate just didn't really listen to anything that Conor had to say. It was kind of in one ear and out the other, and if he did listen to it, it was really just to make an argument back. And Nate just was confident in himself. And I felt like I could sense the energy shift from Conor to Nate in the confidence that Nate had. And it just didn't seem like the smack talk was facing him at all. And I wonder if that made Conor feel a little bit different, because Nate's a totally different fighter than anything that he was preparing for before that fight. So it was interesting. I definitely feel like I learned a few things, as I always do going into new fights, but we'll see what's next.
Now, I know since the title victory, you've been doing a lot of media, and given the circumstances of how you found out about losing your title opportunity last year, I think it would be poetic if Good Morning America would have you on the show now as the new UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion. Would you agree?
I think that would be very appropriate too. Good point. Well taken.
Well, we thank you very much for the time. She is the new UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion, Miesha Tate. And Miesha, we look forward to whatever is next for you, and congratulations on one of the most incredible title victories in recent memory in the UFC.
Thank you so much.